Hey everyone, today we're just going to review a detail, how to set it up and how to prepare something that looks like this. And then after we do this first parapet detail, we're going to kind of expand that and make it a little bit more complicated with this detail below here. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So going over to Revit, we want to do some stuff to get prepared. So this is our building we've been kind of working on the last few weeks. It's a simple kind of warehouse building with some offices and mezzanine. And I think we're going to start with a couple first steps. So step number one is in here we actually have this little wall on the inside of the parapet. And this is done for a few reasons. I think the biggest reason is it kind of cleans up this edge of the curtain wall, and if it's a different type, like a precast wall or anything like that, it just kind of gives the contractor a bit more control of materials. So let's go ahead and model this wall. So I'm just going to go to my roof plan here. So let's go to our roof plan, and I have a few reference planes here already, but we essentially want to model it on the inside. And I think I have some resemblance of one here already. We just want to model on the inside of this wall. So let's click our wall button, and we're going to click generic 200 millimeters. We're going to set our base constraint to be top of roof, and we're going to set our top constraint to be top of parapet. I'm going to change our location line here to be finish face exterior, and that's going to allow me to pick one edge. And so if I hit the space bar, I can switch which direction that wall is kind of going around. So let's click on the inside corner of the parapet, and let's draw around here. And it looks like our curtain wall is in a little bit, so I'm just going to ignore that and just go to the edge of our roof here. And to this edge here, and it looks like it kind of snapped me inside there, so I'm just going to hit the escape button and continue drawing, and we'll click like that. And just to clean up this corner, I'm going to use the trim and extend command just to get that kind of all lined up there. I'm just going to use my Pi Revit plugin here to minimize all my tabs, so just excuse me while I do that. And alright, so we have our building now, and we have this little parapet wall. If you end up using the wrong constraints, just re-edit that and readjust that to suit. So let's go back to our roof plan here, and we already have some predefined building sections on here. Doesn't really matter exactly where you set this up, but let's go to this section for example, and we already have a call out here. I'm just going to delete that call out for right now. And really what we want to do is we want to find a place to put this call out. And so actually going back here, it looks like we're cutting around where the steel beam is. So I think we want to switch that maybe to, let's check out this section. And so we have a wall section here. We're going to do a detail in there. We can do it within the wall section itself, or we can do it on top. I often like, it just really depends, I guess, on the project, but I often like to do it within the wall section. Sometimes I'll do it in both places. So let's go to here, let's go to view, let's go to call out, and we're just going to draw a call out around this area. And then I'm going to just tab over until we can grab our circle. Line for a circle. I'm just going to move this kind of outside there. We'll double click and open up into that wall section. And let's change our scale. I'm going to go 1 to 10 for probably the scale. I don't know if this actually gives us a scale in here. No, not really. So you can kind of see that we're on the right track. We actually have a few elements of our building already here. So we have this wall, we have our roof, we have our curtain wall. Let's change our detail level down to fine, and now we can start seeing some of the layers of different elements. I have some shading predefined on my view here, but if we didn't have that shading, it would probably just look all white, which is completely fine. Let me just see here. I have a view template. Let's just click this GVC section. So that is applying the color there. So it's pulling that same color from our section. So I'm just going to see if I can turn that off. Define view changes to 1 to 10. All right, that's probably what you see. So you have this more clear looking section like this. So as you remember from before, we actually have this tapered roof already set up. So we have, let me just open my layers here. So we have one layer of roof insulation that's not variable, and then we have a second layer that is variable. So the second layer would then decrease in thickness and provide that taper in the roof. So we don't really need to do anything with that. Let's go back to our detail and take a look. So I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to model this parapet cap. And so to model a parapet cap, we're going to do a model in place. So we're going to go to our 3D view. We're going to go to Architecture, Component, Model in Place. And we're going to go down to R for Roof. I'm just using the keyboard to jump down that list. We're going to click on Roofs. And we're going to type Parapet Cap. I'm going to write 1 because I might already have one in here. And we're going to do a sweep here. And a sweep is essentially, you'll see a little video preview here. It's going to take some sort of element and, I guess, copy that element or sweep that element, for lack of a better word, around that line. So we're going to click Sweep. The first part of Sweep is we're going to click Pick Path. And we're going to select the inside edge of that wall we drew, that parapet wall. And we're going to click the inside edge on all 4 edges. We're going to use the Trim and Extend now just to trim these lines up. And trim that line up. And we'll click our check mark here. So we picked all 4 edges, we click our check mark. Now we want to click Edit Profile. So we're still in our sweep, so we've drawn our line, but we now want to create the profile that this is going to follow. So let's go to one of our sections, to our first section we opened, just so I can see that. I think we're going to give this probably a 15 millimeter offset. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw up like this. We'll go up probably, we're going to go up 50 millimeters, and we're going to go up this way, maybe on a 10-degree angle, like so, and then we're going to go back down. And I'm just going to turn off my line weight button here so we can really see what we're doing. And so if we look at our profile here, I'm doing this backwards right now, but we're trying to create this little drip edge. We have a slope inwards. We want to slope inwards for a few reasons. The biggest reason likely is dripping. We just don't want to drip on our facade. It just would leave kind of marks and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of one of the reasons we want to do that. So let's maybe go out 50 millimeters. I'm actually going to lower this cap down. So we want it to cover a bit more of that curtain wall. And we can do the same on the inside. So I'm just going to mirror this line to the inside and bring that parapet down like that. So we have this profile, and I believe the last part of the profile is we just need to make it a box. So we need to have basically an offset of this. So I'm going to offset this by maybe 3 millimeters. Not very much, just a very slight offset. Use the pick line, offset that all around. And then the last part is we just need to close in the lines here. I'm going to remove the offset. I'm just going to draw a line in here and a line in here. And the cool thing about doing this parapet cap is we're doing this in this one profile. So I click the check mark to, so we're in the pink line. I click the check mark here to finish the profile. And then we're going to click it one more time. And I'm actually going to go to 3D before I click it. So you can see we have a profile here. And once I click it on the second time, it's going to essentially array or move that profile on the whole top of the wall like so. So I think this is a nice way to provide 2D information to your project, but also do it in a 3-dimensional way at the same time. I think there's something to be said about being careful with doing this. I think you want to do it in certain places that make a lot of sense, and certain places that I think warrant that warrant this complexity. I wouldn't do it for some sort of sill plate or anything like that. I think it makes more sense for something like a parapet cap that you do see. So let's go back to our Revit here. Let's go back to our callout, and you can see we do have this profile in our callout. The other thing you're noticing, we're seeing it wrap around like this, and I think that's just a lot of information. So let's click our finished model here, and we can see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to Far Clip Offset. We're going to change this Far Clip Offset to be independent, and change the offset to be maybe 1200. And that's going to just eliminate some of that view in the background, so we're just seeing that parapet, I guess, there. So now we want to kind of start working with this detail. So we have a few things we want to bring in. We want to bring in some sort of plate. We want to bring in plywood. We want to bring in, we got some more plates here. We have this angled fillet element, which we'll talk about in a second. So we've got a few elements we need to bring in. So let's go here, and we want to start with our plates. So if you don't have them loaded in, we want to go to Insert. We want to go to Load Autodesk Family. I like to go to change this to be English Imperial, and I'm going to go down to Detail Views. We want to go to not concrete, we want to go to wooden plastics, and we want to find, let's just see here, vertical board, nominal lumber side, we want nominal lumber cut section, we want to bring in, we want to find plywood here, there's gypsum, we don't need gypsum, but it's there if you need it. I don't know where my plywood is, where's plywood, no work. Let's just load this in for a second. I'll load in plywood. It's going to come up with a big list of elements you want to load in. I'm actually just going to grab them all. So I just use the Shift button, click to the top, click to the bottom, click OK, load those in. Let's go to Load Autodesk Family again. We're going to type in sheathing, and we want to bring in plywood section. There we go. All right, so we have some elements here to start drawing. We're going to go to our architecture, Annotate tab. We're going to go to Component, and we've got our plate here. So this is a 2x8 plate. I think I made that before, so you'll just have a normal 2x8 plate. You can see this parapet is really long. It very much depends on the project on how we will orchestrate this. What I will likely do on something like this is I might add a double plate, or maybe in this situation I might add a really long plate like this, and then add a short plate on the inside. And the reason why is we want to utilize the structure that we already have here in this wall. So let's add another plate under Annotate plate. So we have one here. So this is likely, 2x8 plate, and we're going to do a double top plate like we would normally do in a situation like this, and we're going to do a double bottom plate. But the bottom plate, in this case, I'm actually going to lower down a little bit below, because we have this double insulation, and one layer is fixed and one layer is not. But I think what we would end up actually doing with the wall like this is we'd actually build it right on top of our metal decking we have here. So I'm just going to measure down to this layer from our datum, and it's 152 down. So let's go to our 3D view here, and I'm going to select all of these walls by hovering and then hitting the tab button on the keyboard. So I haven't clicked, I'm just hovering and hitting tab, and we're going to change our base offset to -152. And let's go back to our section cut, and so that's now kind of down at the bottom here. So we would have something like this. And what I like to do with projects like this is I actually like to bring in Insert Load. I like to bring in lumber side, nominal cut lumber side. I think that's what we want. We're going to bring in all of these. And what I like to do is I like to use the nominal cut side as kind of the back area. So we're going to go to 2x6. Let's see if that's what we want. No, it's not what we want. We want a 6x, essentially a 6x2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this 2x6, and I'm going to go to duplicate 2x6. Actually, you know what? Let's maybe check the load for a second. Actually, insert load. Let's see if we go to lumber top. Let's see if we have actually a different one. Oh, there is a lumber cut top. So maybe let's bring that one instead. That's probably better. Sometimes it's nice to customize things, but sometimes it's nice to use the proper piece. So we have lumber cut side, lumber cut. Just gonna take the top here. Lumber cut top. Let's go to 2x6. Yeah, there we go. That's right. So 2x8 is what we want. And what I like to do is I like to bring this piece down, and I basically put this behind the stud, so we'll draw it like that. When we click, it's going to make everything disappear, but we can now click this and click send to back. And so now that just looks a little bit cleaner there. Let's go to our architecture tab. Annotate tab. Let's go to component. Let's go to plywood. And we probably have 5/8 or 1/2 inch. Let's go 1/2 inch. And we're going to draw a 1/2 inch plywood on the outside of that wall. And then we have a little bit of space here we need to fill up. So let's go back to component. Let's go to section, lumber section. Let's go to maybe a 2x3 maybe. It doesn't really matter if there's a gap there. What they might end up doing is, actually cutting that to be perfect. But if I do a 2x4, it's going to overlap. So not a big deal. Let's just do 2x3 for now. And what we're going to probably see in this case is another piece of lumber on this end to provide some slope. So let's go with this 2x3 here for a second. And I'm just going to align these on the corners. And what we're going to do is click on this sheeting. This is kind of a little speed trick that I use. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to create similar. And now we can bring this piece of plywood in here. Sometimes what I'll do too, when I have something that's sloped like this, I'll just align it and then drop it back down. And that way, kind of, again, saves time and efficiency with doing this. We have a bit of a gap here, so let's maybe make this a 2x6. That looks about right. And likely what they would do is potentially wedge some of these pieces, maybe wedge the top, not wedge the middle, and maybe wedge the bottom just so that it has a little bit more structure to it, but it would look something like that. Let's go back to our detail here. So pretty close to what's in this drawing. We only have a single top plate here, probably not a big deal. Depends on the contractor. They might want a double top plate. You probably don't need it with having those plates on top, so up to you. All right, so we have that part of the detail done. As you can see, our details may be looking a little bit different, but I think overall it's pretty similar. So let's continue to add some more information. So I think another element that's very visual, just like our Parapet Cap, is our cant strip. So we have that little strip that's in this this angled fillet piece, and this is designed to kind of kick water away from the roof or the corner of the roof. And so I think there's a few different ways of doing this. I'm going to go in here and click HH and hide the Parapet Cap, and we're going to go up here to Component, Model in Place, and we're going to go down to R again for roof. And we're going to call this a fillet piece. Call it roof piece. All right. And then we're going to do again the same sweep. So we're going to click all of these, pick path, click all these elements again. And use the trim and extend to trim these lines. And we're going to go back to our section 2 here. And so we have this cant strip going to be kind of in this area. So let's click our check mark. Let's click Edit Profile. And it's over here. So you'll notice that we do have a slope here. And so what I'm likely going to do with our cant strip is I'm just going to make it a little bit lower and make it around maybe 150 by 150. So 150, and we'll go up about 150, and then in the angle here. And I'm just going to strategically maybe make this 20 millimeters down. And then we'll click our check mark here. Again, I like to go back to the 3D, and then we'll click our check mark again. And you can see that strip is kind of going around the interior. And now when we go back to our detail, we have something that looks like that. Let's see, can we join these two lines? We can. So we have that cant strip there. I probably won't join them. Actually, it doesn't really matter. So now that we have that, let's start adding some insulation. So let's go to Insert, Load Autodesk Family, and let's go to Insulation, or let's type in Rigid. So we have Rigid Insulation and Rigid Insulation Tapered, so let's bring both of those in. And let's go to Annotate Component, and we're going to start with our insulation, rigid insulation section. So I think our bottom one is 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches probably. So let's make that 2 inches. And then we above have our tapered one. So let's go to Tape Insulation, and this one is kind of a bit of a free-form one. It's going the wrong direction right now, so I'm just going to mirror it over. Again, just to save time, and then we're going to move this down into its place. And this is not going to be an exact science, but I'm going to pull this over just a second. And we're going to use the top arrow to kind of lower it down into its place there. And then the bottom, I'm just going to lift up a little bit, tiny bit. So something like that. So we've got our tapered insulation, and then we'll just drag it over to the end here, roughly. So that's looking good there. And we can bring this detail line back in. And then I think the last few parts we have is our we have our cap flashing. We have our membrane, and I guess some dimensions and notes. So let's go ahead and do that stuff there. So let's go back to our detail here. Let's go to our membrane. So we're going to go to detail line, and if you don't have some sort of like wide dash line, we're going to go to manage. We're going to go to additional settings, line styles. And one of my preferences when I'm creating lines is I always create it by weight. So we could do new, we could type 06 dash, we'll call this wide extra dashed. And we're going to make this 6, and we're going to make this a hidden line, like so. And now we can start drawing. So our membrane will likely extend up to below that. And actually, you know what I'm going to do before I draw this? We're just going to do an offset of 5 millimeters, something like that, just to give us a little bit of spacing. And if it's not following the slope per se, you can just hit the tab on the keyboard to get it down to that slope. So that'll look like that. And when we turn back on line weights, you can see we have this nice dash line here. And if you can't see it, we can just use the keyboard to move it out a little bit. The top one's going to be a bit more difficult, but I might move this bottom one and this one up a little bit so we can see that a little bit better. I'm going to move that one over a little bit too. And then when it comes to the actual cap flashing, you can potentially model this if you want, but I'm going to draw it. And what I might need to do is do a bit of a bigger detail, or a bit of a bigger cap around our thing there. But we essentially have our cap flashing coming up like this, and we just need to change the lines. So we're going to go into manage additional settings, line styles, and I might go to, maybe we'll make this 0 for medium wide. And we're going to make this 4. I'm just going to leave it as a solid line. And we're going to make this line that medium line. And so the last kind of part of this exercise is adding notes. And so let's just check out the notes we have here. Plywood, angle fillet, flashing. So some of these are tags, some of them are notes. One of my little tricks for notes is I'm just going to pull this over a little bit. I'm going to type DL on the keyboard for detail line. And I'm going to draw this detail line across here. And then I'm going to offset it maybe 200. So this is my little trick for detail lines. So I'm just going to start with text. So we're going to click here. We're going to click this right here. We're going to click this. We're going to go up to the first line and then over. And I'm going to type in fillet 150 millimeters by 150 millimeters. And so by doing this, it kind of controls where all this stuff is happening, and it'll make your detail look a lot better. And what I often will do is I'll pull this stuff maybe back just a little bit more. So let's maybe extend these up a little bit. So with this, we can do some tagging. So I've already done a little bit, but we can go Insert, Load, Autodesk Family. And let's just go out here a few layers, and we want to type in detail tag. So detail item tag, we're going to load that tag in. Let's override. And so if I go to tag right now, I can actually tag some of these elements. And we want to start having some control. So what I usually do is change this to be free end, and we'll point to there. And then we can, under here, I've already set the arrow to be 30 degrees, but we can change this to be whatever we want. It could be open, like that. And then now we can type in 2 by 6 SPF, like that, like this. And then if this is giving you a little bit of problems, what I usually do is we go to Edit Family here. And depending on what I'm tagging and how I'm tagging it, I can have some control. But I can, I'm going to delete this box. I'm going to change this to be left aligned, but first I'm going to go to VG. And, you know, I think some of this stuff isn't completely required, but I think it's just a nice way of adding some cleanness and organization to your drawings. We're going to change this to be left aligned, and we're going to drag this over so it's next to our little cross here. And we're going to pull this part over like so. And we're going to change this to be the vertical alignment to be top. So it's going to always be at the top there. And then we're going to click our label here. Currently our label is in mark value, so we're going to move this over to mark. And what I'd like to do is I like to do type name. And this just makes your life a little bit simpler when it comes to this. So let's load this back in to our, let me just verify, I think it's a practice one. Yeah, it's a practice one. Let's load this back in to our practice one. We're going to click, actually, you know what, let's rename this. So let's go to File, Save As. I'm going to save this in my folder. And I'm putting a lot of this stuff for this class in. So we're going to call this detail item tag, and I'm just going to write left. So it just kind of gives me an indication it's left aligned. And we'll go back to here. We can click this and change this to be left align. And now that looks a little bit simpler. So 2 by 8. We can start tagging stuff. So I don't know. I do tag some stuff sometimes, but for example, this, you can see that you can only tag one plate at a time. Just add an arrow here. You can only tag one plate at a time, so sometimes I find it's actually better to physically note some of this stuff. So I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to write double 2-2 by 8 SPF top plate. Because then you can add some more information. And from what I'm expecting for these notes, it's really not much. I just want you to note what's there. You can certainly use the tagging. So in this case, we can add, and I'll show you actually another nice trick with this too. So like I added the 2 by 8 thing there, but if we want to tag this plywood here, but we want to add a bit of a note to it. So let's just make sure that's our left. Yeah, it's our left. There's not really a way to add a note to this, so I'm going to actually go back and edit for a second. And I'm going to go here, and I'm going to actually click on our label. I'm going to actually add comment to this as well. And I'm just going to add space between that. Loading the project and close. Save it. And so what this is going to allow us to do is, say if we have some sort of tag like this that's just, it's not enough information, what we can do then is we can actually go over here, click the actual element, and in the comments here we could add in plywood tapered cap, and then it adds that information to the end of our text. So kind of a nice way to start adding some information and details. And then the last part of this is I usually grab these lines, I click hide and view element, and then I bring this cut back over and bring this line over like that, so it makes that organized. So you can see now our text is aligned, and these bends of the actual text parameters are aligned as well. So just a nice way to clean up your project. So that's that part of the detail. What we're going to do is duplicate this detail. So let's go duplicate with detailing. So we're going to keep all this information, but if you notice, I actually gave you a CAD file for this. So we can go here to open up this CAD file, and let me find the CAD file first actually. So we have this axis hatch. So if you go back to our PDF here, we have this axis hatch here. So this is actually a CAD file, and then we also have a Revit family for the axis hatch as well. So we want to load both those in. So we're going to load the CAD file in here first. We're going to preserve, we're going to auto detect units. We're going to change color to be black and white. And let's click open. And none of this stuff is visible in this view. So we'll have to fix that here in a second. Let's pull this over a little bit so we can see more of this roof. Pull these over, because this detail is going to be a little bit bigger. We want to go back to our roof plan. If you remember, we're cutting through somewhere around here, which is where our skylight's going to go. Actually, I might move this actually down a little bit. This isn't cancel. I'll just leave that where it is. And our other element is loading in our skylight. So let's go load in here, and find my skylight here. So I just have this family called Skylight. So this is a very basic skylight. It's just essentially a whole, I believe, is it a window? No, it's just a component. So it's a roof-based component. So we're just going to model this skylight kind of in the corner here, and that's going to automatically cut into the roof like so. But now when we go to our copied view here, you can see this. Maybe we'll move this over just a little bit more. And now we can pull back this insulation to where it needs to be, and pull back this bottom layer where it needs to be. And really the basics of this are just bringing in that CAD file. And so before I do that, let's just do a little bit of editing. Okay, I don't, since I duplicated this view, I guess it didn't bring over those lines. So let's redraw our detail lines, but we're going to draw them over just a little bit. And we're going to drag this over. So and then we can hide these lines. And then maybe we'll move this Skylight over just a little bit more. Obviously, if I had it in a particular place, that would matter, but I don't. So I'm just going to adjust it in that way. And I guess the one thing we didn't bring over from our other, or we didn't create in our other details, metal decking. So let's go to Insert, Load Autodesk Family, and let's load in metal decking. So there's different metal deck profiles, so we can just bring in this this profile here, or this roof deck profile actually. It doesn't really matter. And let's go to metal roof deck. It's called roof deck. Annotate component. Actually, that might have been a profile. That's what it was. Alright, so we're going to do that again. Let's go to Load Autodesk Family. We want to go detail on this. There we go. Problem is I was actually loading in a physical profile. So let's go to our roof decking section. And let's go back to component, and it should be there. Alright, cool. So we have our roof decking component there. And let's just make this really big. That's too big. Something like that. Kind of a weird looking deck. And then now we can just copy this deck profile over. You can do this in a more automatic way. And just for the sake of this skylight, you know what, I might move it back so it's at a nice location for this metal decking, like so. And we have our CAD file. So let's go find and see where that CAD file went. I have a feeling it went to a level 1 or site or something like that. This is our profile here, so let's just see what this is doing in 3D. Yes, we've got some issues there. So let's see if we can bring this in. Sometimes it is easier to bring it in a different way. You can bring it in through a drafting view. That's what I often will do is I'll go to View, Drafting View, and we'll just make it 1 to 10, same scale. And let's go to Insert, Import CAD. Let's import that axis hatch into this right here. We're going to unpin it, and let's go back to our thing here, and let's just measure this right now from side to side. So we have 880, and so let's scale this down from edge to edge to be 880, and so that's a lot smaller. Now we can hit Control C, copy this, and we can paste this into our view here, and it looks like this will fit somewhere on there. Once we kind of have it in roughly the right location, we can actually go ahead and hide this or make it transparent. I think in this case we're going to hide it. So now we have this kind of proper piece sitting here. Usually I prefer to actually create some of this stuff from scratch or bring it into a drafting view and do a little bit more work with it. But I think for now, I think this is probably okay. We're going to go to architecture, let's go to annotate, let's go to detail lines. And usually what we'll do is we'll have some sort of kind of mimicking cant strip like that on this side. So we'll do something like that. And it's just, again, to kind of kick water away from this. So we would have this membrane coming across like this, and it will then extend up those lines like that. And this piece will probably not go all the way. It'll probably stop something over here. Again, it's just kind of to protect that corner. And then we would copy this stuff over to the other side of this skylight. So that's, I think a good representation on kind of how to set up some of the skylight stuff. One thing that maybe just taking this a little bit to another step further would be to model some angles. So if we go to our roof plan here, we have this skylight in this location. Technically, we'll have some sort of structure. So if I were to, let's go to a framing view. Let's go to the roof structural plan. And right now our roof is hiding this. So what I usually do is either hide it or I make it 100% transparent. So let's go to override by element. Let's make it 100% transparent and click OK. So now we can see everything underneath. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to model some beams around the opening of this skylight. So I'm just going to draw these universal ones. We have one on this side, one on this side, and then kind of one on either side in this direction. And obviously that's a little overkill, but what we'd actually model that is with an angle. So let's go to Load Autodesk Family. Let's go to Angle, and we want to go down to Structural Framing. And so let's bring in L angle like that. And we don't need a very big angle, so probably 4s are probably fine. 4 by a quarter. 4 by a quarter. Let's maybe bring in a couple. I like to use the control button and bring in a few examples that I can work with. And now that we have this, we can select all these pieces here, and we can redo them with the L angle. So let's do L 4 by 4. And we probably want these to be underneath the inner edge here. So let's just move it over. I'm going to move it back. And then I'm just going to move this one over and move it back. And do the same down here. Bring that part in. Same here. And let's see if I put these in the wrong direction. Let's go to our roof. Let's hide a few things. I'm just going to HH on the keyboard. So it looks like this angle probably needs to be 180 degrees. So let's rotate that 180. So now that's facing the right direction. And we'll probably need to do the same with this one. Rotate 180. And now we have that angle. And so when we go back to our callout, we should see those angles somewhere in this view, which they're up here. So let's just go back to our 3D view for a second. And let's grab all these angles and let's just adjust the work plane. Edit work planes. And we're going to change this to be top of plate. Let's go to a better place, and let's go back to our drafting view and see if that's in the right place. So it looks like we just need to go up to the top of our flange here, so let's just measure that. We want to go from here up to here, so up. Probably up 57, I think is where we want to go. So let's grab all these again. And let's go up 57 and 57. And I think, oh, this one's still the wrong direction. Maybe it was the right direction. There we go. And let's go back to our section here. And so now we have these elements kind of lining our view here and setting that up. So kind of another nice thing to not model, but to have notes. And so just again, adding more notes. You can kind of see some of the notes that are in this one. So adding as many notes as you can. Looks like we also have some wood blocks under here. So we have our metal decking, and probably what would happen is we would add some essentially wood plates kind of on top of that decking around there to give some structure to that skylight. So we want section. Section 2 by 8. And you have some blocks like this. Maybe 3, maybe just 2 around the edge, just to kind of give some rigidity to this skylight and setup. So we can actually copy some of this stuff over to the other side as well. So a lot of the detail stuff is like once you kind of get it set up, you just kind of configure it and move stuff around, and it becomes a little bit easier since you've already done a lot of that work. So that's setting up details. That's modeling some stuff to make your detailing work easier. Just before I go, I want to show you one other thing. So we have another project here. In this project, we actually have a gutter going along the roof, and I have them done on both sides in 2 different ways. So let's grab both of these and delete. What we can do to model this gutter is 2 different things. Under the architecture tab, there actually is a gutter thing under the roof. So we can click gutters here, and we can actually click this top line of the roof, and it models that gutter. This is sometimes a really nice way of doing it because it's really quick, but sometimes you have not enough control. We can also drop this -2 inches if we wanted to have a bit of an overhang there with that, a little bit more of a drip. The other way to do it, similar to what we did, is we can do a model in place, and we can go down to roof, and we're going to call it roof gutter 1. So again, this is just another way to do this. In this case, we do a sweep like we did before, and we can click pick path here, and we can find some edge of the roof. We can click the check mark, and this time we can click select profile, because it should have that gutter in there. So we can click gutter here, and it's going to have this gutter profile in, and we want to let's angle this. Let's go to 90, and then we can click profiles flipped. Let's go to 270 maybe. There we go. That's the right spot, and then we can do a vertical offset of -2. Or I guess in this case maybe it's a horizontal. Like so, and click our check mark, and we have same kind of or similar kind of gutter profile like that. So just some other elements that you can start to do. The cap is a nice one. Gutter is a good one. Yeah, try that out and see how that works.